2 Timothy 3:16 through 17. All scripture is God-breathed and useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work.
I feel a revival coming. The Righteous Podcast is a podcast that me and David made dedicated to letting people know that we are made righteous through Jesus' blood from him coming down, dying on the cross, and taking the punishment for our sins, and that his blood covers us, and that we're made clean so that we're able to walk in righteousness and experience him daily. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Righteous Podcast. I am so glad that you guys took time out of your day to watch us, see what we had to say, see if we had any wisdom, anything to share. Today, we are on episode 8, week 8 of the Righteous Podcast, and I could not be more excited. Today, we are talking about presence, and really not just the presence of God, but how his presence has affected us in these 8 weeks, and how his presence has affected our community just in the last month or two, but past 8 weeks that we've just seen God move so much. And we just kind of wanted to share our experience and what's been happening around us in this time.
Yeah, this 8 weeks has been crazy. I mean, past 8 weeks has been crazy, but the last 8 weeks, I think just really diving into looking for not looking, but like seeking God and seeking the presence of Jesus. And we sat down with a good buddy of ours just a few weeks ago, or a few weeks before the podcast, and he was talking about spending time in the presence of God and just listening, not speaking. A lot of times we want to speak and we always want to talk to God and like feel like we need to lay everything out before him. But a lot of times he's talking back to us, and all it takes is for us to just listen. So this last 8 weeks, we've just been listening. We've been spending a lot of time listening and just seeking his guidance and seeking wisdom from him to go out into this world and try to make a difference, on our behalf through his Holy Spirit that lives within us and that lives within all of his people. So it's crazy what we've seen, just the way God's moving in our community right now and the way he's moving in the lives of the people we know. It's just been unbelievable. So we really just wanted to share just some of the experiences we've had today and some of the ways that he's working in others' lives. So
really, the change that I've seen just in my life kind of just started when I was like, Lord, I'm going to serve you. Like, I don't care how, I'm just a servant. And that was really the start for me and the start of my journey, not just of like being a Christian or like being a Christ follower, but when I've just been feeling his presence, seeing his presence, and noticing these miracles, these blessings that he's giving me, just when I was like, Lord, I'm going to serve you. I'm just giving it up. Whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do for you. And that was even before we made the podcast. I mean, this is just a part of it, a part of seeking his presence and trying to listen to where he's guiding us in life. It's like ever since I said that I was going to be a servant and I just wanted to just do something for him. It's like everything's popped up, man. I mean, I went to 3 camps this summer. All of them were amazing. I got to baptize 2 people this summer. It was my first person I ever baptized, and then I got to baptize one of my best friends. And I'm at a loss for words, like trying to speak about God's presence. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, that alone is crazy. And then I started like serving in the youth and getting to make a connection with all these kids and trying to make an impact through God's Spirit. And I'm just constantly getting filled. Like, I don't even know what to say besides like, I've been so content and fulfilled in my life over the past couple of months, just letting God blow my mind and letting him just overtake my life, and into every aspect. And that doesn't mean it hasn't been hard. It's been one of the hardest summers I've ever had too, but the most fulfilled and filled up I've ever been.
it's crazy how it all started with you and me both just being willing to just lay things down and just lay down the flesh of what I want, because that's when life starts with Christ. I mean, it's like the moment you dive into just accepting wherever he's going to take you. I mean, just we have so much resistance and we're worried about him taking us somewhere we don't want to go and doing things we don't want to do. And it's so much better than anything we could ever imagine. And that's something I've tasted, and I know you've tasted in the last just 8 weeks. And it all started with me being willing to just accept that if God was going to call me to do something that I didn't want to do, I was going to do it. I think there's so much resistance as a Christian with what you feel like God is going to call you to do and you really not wanting to do it. and you really not wanting to lay down yourself and you really not wanting to go and serve. But I think we have these ideas of like where he's going to take us, and we have no idea where he's going to take us. I mean, I had no idea he was going to bring me where I'm at now to even do this podcast. Like, I had no idea. And that's the thing, is you don't know where he's going to take you. You just got to be willing to accept where he's going to take you, and just talk to God and say, I don't do with me how you will. You know what I mean? Whatever your will is, do with me how you will. And that's when everything starts. If there's something in your life where you feel like God, you just don't really want to give to God, that's probably the thing you should give to God, and to tell him that you want to give it up and just give it to him. He may let you keep the thing, you know? He may let you keep it and hold on to it and do something crazy with it. But just being willing to do that is when he shows up and you can experience his presence in a whole different way.
Dude, I agree with that so much. And I've just seen so much trust built in my life and perseverance built up in my life just by doing what I feel like God's calling me to do and being willing to do it. I mean, really just being willing to do it. Like, we talk so much about just being willing, and I was this and I was that. But dude, before, I mean, God could ask me to do some. It's like you could flick a coin. I mean, I might not. And most of the time I'm just gonna be like, oh, it's probably me. I'm just crazy talking to myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And ever since I just didn't discredit the presence of God, didn't discredit him talking to me, didn't discredit him trying to pull me in this certain direction, I just started doing it. I didn't care if I looked crazy. I didn't care if I looked like a lunatic. Shoot, I'm doing it. Dude, I promise you're not a lunatic. Like, this is God. And I've experienced him in so many crazy ways just by doing that, and have built so much trust in him too. So
I love how you mentioned trust, because that for sure is the one major thing that I've felt in seeking the presence of God. It's just like the more and more you lean on him and you experience him, the more and more you trust him, and the more and more you trust what he's doing and what he's telling you, because the more familiar you get with his voice, the easier it is to separate your thoughts from his thoughts. And when he's speaking, it's louder. It's way louder than your thoughts. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious. So it's like when you're seeking it day in, day out, and you just want to encounter God, it's so available to you. And I never knew it was this available. I mean, I walked, and it doesn't mean you're not a Christian. It doesn't mean you're not a follower of Jesus if you haven't experienced these crazy things. That's not what we're trying to say. But it's available to you. It's available to everyone. And really all we're trying to get across with this video is that if you seek his presence day in and day out, you will find it.
And it's crazy, like, we talked about it, but I don't know where I would have been if we hadn't started listening. Like, we probably wouldn't be in here sitting in front of this camera, just talking, having a good time, like having a conversation with each other, or being able to talk to you guys and have a good time with you guys. Like, we love you guys, and we would have never been able to experience that if his presence hasn't played a part. And I'm starting to realize even more, and the more familiar I get with his presence, dude, it's everywhere. It doesn't matter, like, what I'm doing. Like, it's everywhere, and it's affecting so many people's lives. And recently, we have seen such a big shift in our community just in the past month, dude. Past 2 months, maybe. Like, people are just longing for the Lord. They're hungry for something. And, I mean, you even see, like, influencers, like, becoming Christian, or influencers just, if you see them seeking for something, whether it's, like, some kind of success or some kind of something, and they're just so close. Just barely missing the mark. And I think people are going in the right direction, and some people are just barely missing it. Some people are starting that journey, and it's so awesome to see.
It's like a domino effect. Like, last night we were talking at our young adults ministry. Mitchell was speaking, and he was talking about just being at the end of your rope. It's like being at the end of your rope and getting to a point where you know that you just can't do it on your own. And at some point in time, we're all going to experience, if it's not something in life, like a circumstance that we're going to experience, it's going to be a mental battle. And we're all promised to go through these things, whether it be depression, anxiety, all of these things that we battle with. And the crazy thing is, these things that we don't want that happen to us, it's really important to ask yourself, if I don't want this to be going on, why do I feel it? And when you ask that question, you realize, wow, like, the enemy really is working against me, because I don't want to be anxious. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want all these things, but I feel them, and it's not me. So it's obviously Satan. And that's when you realize that, that opens up the biggest opportunity ever for you to call out to God and ask him to step in and guide you and lead you in the right direction. And that's just, we've seen it in our community like crazy right now. I think like right now, just with social media and the way the condition of our world, it's just so easy to compare and do all these different things. And it's leading people to just mental struggles. And I feel like that's why people are waking up to the presence of God, you know?
I think it's cool that you mentioned like having things happen to us that we don't want, like fear and anxiety. Because like for me, even over the past couple months, I realized like, why do I do things I don't want? Why do I do things I don't want to do? Why do I do things I know will hurt me? And just realizing that over the past couple months and knowing that other people realize that too, like that's just a humanity struggle. Like that is like another reason why I feel like people are kind of waking up and like, man, like I am flawed. Like I'm just a flawed person. So like they kind of get to the end of their rope of trying to figure it out themselves because, man, I've tried over and over trying to figure out my junk, and I promise it hasn't worked out. And that's, like, so cool to just see people be like, man, I can't do it. But they know now that there's someone who can, and then they go to Jesus. Dude, it is – gosh, I'm getting fired up sitting here. Like,
yeah.
I'm serious.
Bryce Crawford talked about, I know I watched a podcast with him. He was sharing his testimony, and it was something he experienced, just like anxiety, depression. And he talked about how it feels like an incurable disease. And he spoke about how when he realized it was incurable, there was nothing he could do about it, that he called out to God and he said, God, if you're real, take away my anxiety, depression, and show me that you're real. And he said that he did. And that's the thing that I want to get to right here is that with something that feels incurable, Jesus is the one who heals. He is the one that is going to restore everything that is broken. Everything that's broken in your mind, everything that's broken in your life, he can restore it. And his presence is capable of that. And that's what we're just trying to get to today is his presence. It heals. It changes lives. And it's a domino effect.
I remember a couple months ago, we were all chilling. It was me, David, and Mitchell. We were like, let's just listen to the Lord. And I remember the Lord telling me to respect his presence. But it wasn't like you better respect me, you better respect my presence. It was like, man, my presence works wonders. My presence heals. My presence is power. My presence is kindness. My presence is company, companionship, friendship, like all of it. And it just hit me. I was like, wow, like when I ask for Jesus, even before this podcast, I was like, Lord, I just pray your presence is here. But it's more than just God being like, hey, what's up? Like it's the words coming out of my mouth right now, man. It's powerful. I'm telling you, and it's different. But I think one of the most encouraging and one of the coolest things that I've been seeing over the past 8 weeks is people's lives around us have been changing, man. Like the presence of God has been working in church, out of church, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. I think back to that night you mentioned with me, you and Mitchell, when I remember you telling me that God told you felt like God was telling you to respect his presence. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I remember us moving forward from that night. We just started seeking it like endlessly, dude. We were just on our knees listening together as friends, like experiencing change. And when I wasn't experiencing anything crazy, you were experiencing something crazy, and it was motivating me to keep seeking. And that's what's cool about like the domino effect and his presence is like that's why we strengthen each other. Iron sharpens iron. Because when he's not always speaking so loud to you. Like, and when it's quiet, he's probably speaking loud to someone else. And seeing all these people in our community experience what his voice sounds like, I mean, it's fired me up so much. I mean, and it's just like just a flame just starting to ignite, and I can feel it.
It's just so cool. Like one of the biggest things that's happened recently that's really got me motivated, I'm sure it's got David motivated, is somebody that I graduated with came back to church for the first time in a little while and experienced God's presence, ended up coming to our young adults ministry on Tuesday, got fired up, and he was supposed to take a job where he was going to work 7 days a week. He said, heck no, I'm not doing that because I want to serve, I want to go to church. And he said, I want people to change. I want my friends' lives to change. I want people around me to experience what I'm experiencing. And dude, he's staying with his job where he can experience the Lord. He's going to serve. And he's just the other night, he was texting his friends kind of where he's at. Like, hey, I'm in this position. I'm stopped doing these things, and I really want to experience the Lord. And his friends agreed with him. And some of his friends even had crazy stuff happen to them recently where it just all connected. And for me to hear that, it was just so encouraging because Not necessarily craziness is always happening in my life, like stuff like that, but hearing that from him got me so motivated to just experience God and just to thank God. And it got me excited. It just got me excited. Like it got me excited to just see how everyone's going to change, and got me motivated to like just keep putting the work in, because there's change coming into my community, and it's important that like I'm a piece of it. David's a piece of it. We're just all going to, man, I'm getting too excited. It's cool that we're all going to experience it together is what I'm trying to get at.
And that's what's cool about it. Like we're all on, we all get to be a part of it. Like we're not building something of our own. We're all building on something that we can all be a part of and experience and get to see. It's so powerful, dude. And I've seen it a lot recently, for sure in our community and in the youth and all these kids that are just fired up to hear from God and like starting their own pages and podcasts and all this cool stuff. But I've seen it in my family, dude. Like my dad just spoke at a church last Sunday. He hasn't spoken at a church. Like I love my dad to death. Dude's so wise. But he hasn't spoken at a church in forever. And I mean, I don't even know if he has, to be honest. He spoke at a church last Sunday, was fired up about it. I got my sister hitting me up telling me that she's hearing from God, and she feels like God opened up this opportunity for a job for her, and she just feels like she's hearing from him like she never has. And it's so motivating to me to hear these stories, these God stories of how his presence is affecting people, because I feel it and I'm familiar with it, and I'm just excited for what's next. I mean, it's crazy.
I'm just blown away by like his I mean, dude, even seeing people pop up with little podcasts, little like, this person loves Jesus, that person loves Jesus, like little Instagram accounts, like I'm just so happy that people are wanting it. People are wanting to not just experience God, but share their experiences. I think that's the biggest thing too, is like, they're not just wanting to experience God, man. They're going and sharing it. It's that important to them. They're not keeping that thing secret. And I'm so excited to see our community grow and other communities grow, your guys' communities grow, to see you guys grow. I mean, you guys are such an important asset to us and to Jesus, to our faith. He uses us all in such unique ways. Like even us doing this podcast, man, it gets us motivated. I mean, consistent, disciplined, but just happy and content with like who we're talking to and like what we're sharing. So just thank you guys. I mean, you guys are awesome, and God is working through you guys, and his presence is in you guys. His presence has been working in this podcast just for us from you guys. I mean, I hope that makes sense, but it's awesome. I mean, I'm literally just, I don't even know. I'm so blown away. I already suck at like making podcasts and looking at a camera, but then God blows my mind, and I'm already at a loss for words. It like makes it that much harder to make a podcast.
Yeah, like I'm so bad. Like I look at this camera, I'm so bad at it. But we're able to get into a conversation. I'm not even able to do this usually. Like if I were to hop in front of a camera and just talk about something. Mm-hmm. But when it's about God, dude, it rolls. And we say some things like, I know that wasn't from me. Like I'll say things that just are not from me, and that's the presence of God. And it's so like what you were saying earlier, with all the kids all the people that have been impacted and just experiencing the presence of God, they experience change and they experience that presence, so they want to go and share it with the world. And that's what we're called to do. When you experience a change like that and you experience his presence like that, you don't want it for just you. You want it for everybody. And that's why it's so cool. It's so possible for other people to taste it, and it just takes you just being bold and you seeking his presence and you asking God to be present with you in these conversations and in these, in these relationships.
Like, I'm serious. Like, just seeing all the change in my community, I feel a revival coming.
Yeah, I agree.
Because God's presence is personal.
I just feel it, dude. Like, when we were praying last night, and I felt like God was telling me, I'll be transparent with y'all. I felt like God was telling me, he gave me 3 words, and it was build up, breakthrough, and persistence. So as I took that into prayer and I asked God, like, what does this mean? And as I was praying it, I could feel like this build up, like something was about to just break through. And that's what he told me. And this summer we've been told things, we've been praying to God, and he's been telling us things similar to that. And it's been happening. He's been proving us right to let us know he is speaking and he's hearing us and he's present with us. And it's just, I think what's so cool too that his word promises us is that when 2 or more gather, his spirit is with us. And it doesn't mean his spirit isn't with us when we're alone, but like when 2 or more gather, He's listening and he wants to show up and prove y'all wrong. So show up, go find a buddy to pray with. Go find a buddy to get on your knees with, cuz it is it's crazy.
Dude, it literally like not just strengthened our friendship, but it like changed our relationship with God. I mean, me and David do like a lot of crap together. We went and rode bikes today on a trail. Like just the most stupid stuff. But he's also a friend that I can get down on my knees and pray with. Like talk to God about. Like we're gonna fight for His presence. We're going after it, and dude, we've experienced it together. But now when we're with each other and I'm down, he's like, dude, you don't remember that one time when God did this? And when he's down, I'm like, hey, you remember that one time God did this? Like, why don't we pray? Why don't we do this? And it's so awesome because His presence is so personal.
And we just want to leave y'all with a little bit of encouragement, just based on the stories we have, to just let y'all know that it's so real, and He's working in our lives, and He's working in the lives of others, and He can work in your life. Like straight up, He can work in your life. He can show up, and you can experience things that you never thought you could experience. So just be ready for it and seek it, and you're gonna find it.
We know God's presence is personal, but man, let's get personal with each other. You know, like even in the comments, like if you're like, hey, like I just really want to experience God's presence. I mean, we're a small community right now, so look, y'all have the opportunity. Just ask us, and we're gonna answer. I mean, ask us questions. We'll ask you guys questions. I mean, we're not afraid to be honest with you guys. I mean, we're all a team. We're all a family, and we're all doing it together. So let's just encourage each other and just walk and do life together. I mean, it's such an exciting thought knowing that we have a group of people that we can just do life with and experience Christ together.
All right, guys, that's pretty much it for episode 8. This was a great episode to just share our experience with the presence of God, because it's unbelievable. So this was a cool episode, and we just want to say we appreciate y'all. Whoever, if you came from TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at, we just appreciate you being here. We appreciate you watching and just giving us a chance to just hear what we, like Austin said, just hear what we got to say. But we appreciate you watching. We love you guys, and can't wait to see what the next episode is, honestly. Appreciate y'all.
Thank y'all. Love y'all.